Who cares if someone has a moment of inspiration if they don't act upon it?
Why is it so difficult for big companies to actually take meaningful action, given that it's just so eminently visible to everybody?
It's not difficult. They just choose not to. It's possible for them to make a change, for sure, of course, very simple. But they choose to steward the shareholders first. I think that what people are discovering in conscious capitalism is that there's prosperity. And prosperity is a different modality than profitability, where profit is really somewhat extractionist. And prosperity is, of course, exponential. Plastic Bank is a prosperity mindset where it sees the goodness, the benefit, and the being in all things, in all being and in all things. We don't use the word garbage or waste. Who determined that it was garbage and waste? It's just plastic. It's just a material. It's benign.
In your learning journey, what have you found the hardest part, the perpetual stone in your shoe that you just cannot reconcile?
That it evolves all the time. I'll just express it the way that is meaningful to me, is that I don't care anymore. I do not care if someone says yes or no. It's not for a payoff. It's not for that psychological egoic attachment to a sense of being or meaning or who am I or what did I accomplish. My work is to heal, to be in a place of being, in that very essence of being, in the creation of that. And I know that that is the most important work that I can do and we can all do for all of humanity. So that I don't take an attachment from an accomplishment. I don't care. But it's so powerful and it's landed with me so remarkably lately. I don't give an F.
You could be like a DJ or a rock star with that name.
David Katz. It is a bit rock starry, actually. Have you ever been told that before, Dave? Have you ever been told you kind of got a name of a rock star?
I'll accept it now. Thank you. Thank you. That's amazing.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you hopping on. I think there are very few that have been in the business for as long as you or have the world view that you have, or in fact have had the influence that you have had, particularly with your job as founder and CEO of Plastic Bank. So anyway, not to blow too much smoke up your bottom, but we're very glad to have you. So welcome. So, I mean, it's such a big, complex, political, frustrating, nebulous, convoluted topic. It's difficult to know where to start to kind of unravel this beast. Are there kind of three pivotal moments that you can talk to that have helped define kind of who you are, what you believe in, and the impact that you're hoping to have with Plastic Bank?
Now, I can go back and be very clear on moments that filled me with ocean stewardship or stewardship over the poor. But there are greater influences that have touched me in a way to put me on a path of becoming the person that could have any influence at all. Who cares if someone has a moment of inspiration if they don't act upon it? So I think the bigger question is, what's had me be in action? What's had me persevere?
Sounds like a great question.
I'll take that.
Before we hit that one,
yeah.
Just for those that are watching and listening and maybe don't know you, could you just give a couple of minutes background to you and your role at Plastic Bank?
I'm just some dude. I just like some dude from Vancouver. It's home. I'm Canadian. And I am living in a way that creates a sense of being. Those who live in the deepest, darkest slums of the world have an opportunity to view life with hope. People living in those conditions that are flooded with debris, with garbage, with plastic packaging beneath their feet everywhere, that still live in the condition of food insecurity, and would create plastic as a sense of currency of money. And it's transacted to pay for school tuition and medical insurance and communications and cooking fuel and clean water and everything that those people struggle for, that need as a basic of humanity, is now available to be purchased using plastic garbage. And we use that plastic as a currency in a way that substantiates the trustability of the person collecting it. What the West would call a credit score. The more plastic you collect and transact to pay for the things that help you transcend poverty, simultaneously, you earn the ability to prove who you are, your reliability, and we provide no interest loans. We've created a self-perpetuating poverty alleviating mechanism using one condition to solve the other: poverty and plastic pollution. There's no point cleaning the ocean or cleaning the beaches and the shores if we don't stop the flow of plastic from entering the ocean to begin with.
Right.
Futile to try to clean up the ocean.
Right.
Possible to stem the flow. And that's what we're focused on.
Why is this proving so problematic? Why is it so difficult for big companies to actually take meaningful action, given that it's just so eminently visible to everybody?
It's not difficult. They just choose not to. The reason we are where we are is because traditional public structure, public corporation, whose CEO has a fiduciary duty to return shareholder value, continuing to increase the profit, the dividend, and the return to shareholders. Contravening that could be a criminal offense. It's possible for them to make a change, for sure, of course, very, very simple. But they choose to steward the shareholders first, as is the law. Plastic's remarkable. Every plastic bottle that you ever encountered was easily exchangeable in your local neighborhood for $5. How many would you still see in the garbage?
Despite everything that we read and everything that we see and everything we know about plastic pollution.
Well, it's the behavior piece. We haven't made that very clear, right? Because we tell people to put things in the recycle bins, but then we tell them that half the things that go through the recycle bins don't get recycled. So then, but we don't really tell them the best ways to take it back to your store.
It's just finding value in it. And it's surprisingly simple, comprehensively complicated when it becomes a profit equation, trying to profit from a material that has low mass. And so you're trying to collect large volumes of low mass material. And when you're sending out a $300,000 truck and you have a $10 million facility, and you're trying to collect material and you're trying to separate it optically and other things, the economic value somehow disappears. 80% of the plastic entering the ocean is coming from areas where there is no recycling infrastructure or waste management infrastructure, because the country cannot afford, there is no opportunity to send out $300,000 trucks, and there's no food for the population, there's no clean water for the population. They certainly are not trying to influence recycling and collection. So there's the need to help solve poverty. And really, if you want to look at the big challenge, the challenge that we all need to be addressing is poverty. And if you're aware of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, these 17 ambitions for humanity, you should note that they're in order from 1 to 17. 17 is partnership for the goals, where people can collaborate. But if we get to number 2, which is hunger, or if we get to quality education, we have to solve number 1. And number 1 is to end poverty. We won't solve all of the other conditions unless we solve poverty. It's not against the laws of physics. That's available. Not even large dollars. It's very available.
Well, you always say follow the money.
Well, always. I mean, to your point, David, the shareholder versus stakeholder capitalism argument, needless to say, that's the existential dichotomy we find ourselves struggling against just globally at any level right now.
I know that people live in a condition of poverty in the mind, and poverty of the mind has them act in a way where they believe life is scarce. And so they live in a place where they try to hoard or take or have, because they live in a place of fear or not feeling good enough. And so that leads to those experiences. People don't realize that they're living in a place of condition, or conditioned in a way of such poverty of the soul, of the being, of the self, that they're not good enough, that they'll only be good enough when they have more. And so it's back to Maslow's needs as well, because within Maslow's needs, that sense of security and safety at the base is a condition that all of humanity suffers. And so you can as well be and living with a $10 million house and still feel very scared and not feel like you have enough and feel like you're not safe. And when we can address those issues, then we can address the greater opportunities that self-actualize, which rises by ultimately providing the condition for others to rise as well. So it's much more of a consciousness journey than anything else. And that's available as well. And we see a mass awakening today of people who are coming to that realization, as well as we see people leaving alcohol and things like that keep people in their ego.
I've heard it talked about as the quickening. There's a kind of an acceleration, an exponential acceleration of global consciousness and connectivity, which to some degree is being driven by technology and availability. But it's also a much deeper intentionality and awareness of where we are and the role that each of us can potentially play and how intimately connected we are universally, and therefore the impact that we can collectively have if we choose to kind of tap into that, better phrase, higher state of consciousness, right?
It's Darwinism that states that it's not the strong that survive, it's the ones most apt to change. We continue to talk about saving the earth, which is just a ridiculous conversation. It's stupid. We all know that the earth is going to be absolutely fine. It's going to just completely replenish. We may not be now evolving in our physical form as rapidly as we had in the past, but consciously we see an evolution. And in that evolution, we'll have the opportunity to be able to live in harmony. I think there's different forces all the time. And I think that people, again, living in that base of needs, and I'll reflect on an experience that I had at one of the world's largest car manufacturers when I sat on the top floor of their building with a senior board member that in the conversation around partnering with us said, David, it's not going to happen because people have mortgages to pay. And the reference there was that no one was willing to take the risk because they were afraid that if it didn't work out, it would mean their career, their ability to pay their mortgage, and on and on. They all wanted to do something, but they were afraid. We are still all living in the base of needs.
I think, though, what David was saying that I was really enjoying was a level of optimism. So when we talked about like not stealing from someone to get ahead or grab onto what is mine, what I appreciate is this reframe around how do we look at, I'll say, the world's problems. Let's take poverty. Let's take plastics. Let's take all the things and look at it with optimism. Where does it take you? And then it takes you to maybe plastic should become a currency. Maybe we can solve poverty. It's not that hard. Like to change the structure, the way we do remuneration, help people get out of it. Like if we can look at those problems with optimism rather than maybe skepticism or fear, that then we can unlock that opportunity of really changing.
Yeah, and it takes will, and it takes courage, and it takes someone willing to be wrong. And back to our original question, I think this is really where I've arrived. It's like, I'm very willing to be wrong. I love being wrong. It's amazing. There is no wrong. There's just learning. There's figuring it out, and there's learning, and it's beautiful.
In your learning journey, what have you found the hardest part, the perpetual stone in your shoe that you just cannot reconcile?
That it evolves all the time. I'll just express it the way that is meaningful to me. Is that I don't care anymore. I don't care. I do not care. I do not care if someone says yes or no. I don't care. It's not for any reason. It's not for any meaning about myself. Did Pepsi join us? Great. I don't care. I don't care. It's not for a payoff. It's not for that psychological egoic attachment to a sense of being or meaning or who am I or what did I accomplish. I don't care. And if they do, they do. And if they don't, they don't. I don't care.
How long did it take you to get to that sense of intention and awareness in your own life?
And detachment.
And detachment, yeah.
56 years, 8 months. I mean, it's all led me here. I mean, that we are the summation, the accumulation of all experiences, all decisions of our lives. It just depends on how you choose to view the experiences. Did they come for you or did they come against you? I'm a creator, not a destroyer. I use my words to create a world that I believe is just and equitable and fair and has inside of it the pinnings of prosperity for all. And it goes, and I deeply reflect on the Gandhi quote, which is to be the change you wish to see in the world. And I think that what's relevant and important in that conversation is to be. And it's to be, it's not to act as, to struggle for, to try to be in a certain way. No, it's be, to be in the being, in the existence of the change. Be present in the changed. Be the changed in the world. And that's my role. I think it's a very important conversation for everybody because it's not about a struggle to get somewhere. No, it's actually quite simple. It's in the being. Now, the challenge in the being is that we find ourselves attached into the into the meanings of our lives, of who we believe we are or aren't, or we try to prove who we are. And if I'm trying to prove who I am by facilitating something that could exist, I'm actually just recreating from the past. My work is to heal, to be in a place of being, and in that very essence of being, in the creation of that. And I know that that is the most important work that I can do, and we can all do for all of humanity, so that I don't take an attachment from an accomplishment. I don't care. But it's so powerful, and it's landed with me so remarkably lately. I don't give an F.
I admire it. The being present is, I find it very hard, mostly because, it's a very busy space in my brain of different, priorities, different things to focus on. And just the ability to be present is hard. So I admire that. And the other thing I mean, there's a lot in what you said that speaks to me, the gift of having detachment from all of those things, so that, you can rise above it. You don't feel as vested in those things happening or not happening, but then you can kind of go with the flow a bit more. You can start to use these things in different ways to help with the greater cause, rather than get so personally vested. That level of detachment is really appealing.
It's so powerful and so beautiful, and high five just for that whole conversation. If I'm coming from a past-based conversation and traumas and things, I can only recreate what was. And so to create newly in the world, in the universe, for all of humanity, I've got to come to nothing. Create newly is the word, because ultimately we're creating. And it's not lost on me that Genesis begins with creation, and that God speaks the world into creation. I really have no idea how Plastic Bank even exists, to be fair. I mean, we influence about 300,000 people who are collecting. We've created a supply chain that spans globally, that returns billions and billions of plastic bottles collected by hand, returned to large manufacturers. We've created a circular economy, a supply chain. We've created a blockchain banking application. We do, financial inclusion and literacy for the poor. Our locations are predominantly schools where we teach children to teach their parents about environmental stewardship and returning material. I have no idea powerfully how it has come to life. I've done nothing other than elicit that sense of being in other people, and I've invited them to be that change. I create a space where they can see themselves newly and become self-actualized. I just speak into existence what can possibly occur. And it touches people in a way where they see themselves in it.
We use the phrase set the table, which I always like. It's like you kind of set the table for those things to start to
I like that.
Happen on their own.
I like the metaphor of that. That's beautiful, actually. Set the table. It's nice. I like coming together to break bread. I love all that could be inside of that. It's very nice. Yeah.
There seems to me, David, such a gap, such a conceptual gap between the conversation that we're having right now and being able to tap into that deep sense of awareness and intentionality. And I'm just kind of thinking, particularly from a conscious leadership point of view, given our belief is that business could be and should be one of the most powerful agents of change the world has ever seen.
Of course it is. Look where we obviously has power. Look at the degradation that we've experienced. That is also as a result of business. We just haven't chosen which direction to take.
What's your point of view then on what's the work? What's the work that people need to do?
On self. Meditation. Go understand the very present moment. Understand that you are not your thoughts. Go understand the distinction between your conscious being and your egoic existence. Go there. Be there. And only you and your experience and your choosing of that very moment is the only thing that you actually have control over. So that there's a mass awakening to that. And I see entrepreneurs awakening en masse to that. So I see it coming. And even in the span that I've been, and I'm super OG in the space of marine debris and pollution and all those things. It's been 13 years, 14 years. And really, when we look at the span and the history of what's occurred, how we got here and what's occurred in 14 years, although I believe it's all going very, very slow and we could go much faster, a profound wave of change has landed in humanity. I think that what people are discovering in conscious capitalism is that there's prosperity. And prosperity is a different modality than profitability, where profit is really somewhat extractionist. And prosperity is, of course, exponential. And in the pursuit of that prosperity is a beautiful, love-filled, remarkable life. And in the pursuit of it, you come to learn that the journey is the destination. Plastic Bank is a prosperity mindset where it sees the goodness, the benefit, and the being in all thing. In all being and in all thing. You see, we don't use the word garbage or waste. Who determined that it was garbage and waste? It's just plastic. It's just a material.
Right.
It's benign.
I'm just interested, David. What's your take on AI?
Oh, I'm perplexed that we have the knowledge of humanity in the palm of our hand, and yet the prevalence of misinformation and ignorance seems to be expanding exponentially. So do I think that it's a remarkable business tool? Is there an exponentiality in it? Is prosperity available? Of course. Is all things, degradation available through it? All things are there. And that's why I think that if anyone that is listening as well, when you take on a prosperity mindset and the very essence of being in creation and being a co-creator in the universe, choose what it is that you wish to see. Choose to be goodness in the world. Choose prosperity, and then we can encounter and use that technology in that way.
Thank you, David.
I've really enjoyed it.
I honestly didn't expect us to go so broad and deep. I thought we were talking about plastic. But in all seriousness, it's been amazing.
It's been a gift.
And I think just your wisdom and your empathy and your ability to frame very complex subjects and concepts into something which is tangible and expressible and actionable, I think, more so than anything else.
And individual.
Right.
Very personal. Maybe that's better.
Yeah, is gold. Thank you so much, and be well. And I hope we'll see you soon.
Thank you, David.